Hey guys, how are you? Crypto Sniper here. Yep, it's Bitcoin and crypto time, and I'm going to give you my latest update. My community has been hearing how I feel around the crypto markets. It's been really interesting. So, ostensibly, we're looking here at the daily, but the big picture, as you're familiar, is essentially our larger scenario that I've made very clear a couple of times. We think we're in this part of a continuation, and we've got a key level that we want to see run. You'll see I've put down a red line. I've taken all my normal draws, I've overlaid some draws here. This is in and around the 10,480 to 10,500. We want to see that level fail. There's a couple of reasons. There's a couple of touches, one there, and one there. You'll see it when I drop down the time frame. It was more importantly part of big calls that we've made when we've been on the bear side. We haven't always been bears. Once this got impulsive and broke out, that we were on the bull. But the big calls were these grind lines and breakdowns, people calling bottoming there and calling for all-time highs here, and not seeing inverted HVF structure, and not having a volatility-based approach to the crypto markets, and seeing the setup and structures that were in place there. So this was volatile. You could see the volatility showing up here and there, and at some point it will get a little bit parabolic here as well. Let's delve into this a little bit more. Now there's a multiple theme on this, because literally from the top of 2018 we were of all of them, we were bearish during the bear trend and the final stage of the bear trend, but when the bull resumed we were Bitcoin dominant bullishness, and we kept warning people against all the altcoin callers repeatedly, and that has met its point where it is now changed, and it's changed a couple of weeks ago, and this is in essence what's happened. Bitcoin itself had a super cycle bull market that led to the 20K. It had an overextend to the downside. Markets always overreact, hence the twist of the knife to the downside following that. So it was super up, super down. What happened on the altcoins is that they were absolutely rammed and absolutely dumped, and then had a weak rally and then were dumped again, and essentially have been making the double bottom, the W bottom. I'll get into that more detail. What we'll do is we'll share the total two, which is all crypto excluding Bitcoin versus Bitcoin, and why not transition to that right away. I'll take it up to 3 days. The candle detail is a little bit blurry when you are so many periods of time in the cycle, so let's just get it like that. Now you can do this on your trading view if you don't know how to use it. I always like an odd new trick, and that is it. So instead of Litecoin, I will put in here total 2. Yeah, we can probably type there to total 2, and we'll go to the crypto market cap. So the objective is to show you how these two charts were different and how the themes have played out. From the top of 17, actually, you wanted to be out of alts. So many folks, so killed, so beaten up in the alt market for most of this period. And now finally getting some respite as the dominance has switched slightly. Now this is only good while Bitcoin's good, remember. So this is the first bull market. What's the differences? Things change slowly. What's the differences? I'm actually going to de-log this because it makes the alts look better than it actually has been. I put it to regular scale, and I'm going to take that volume off. Note how the volume has climbed. I might put it back on later, but it's just blurring the chart for now. Note how the volume has climbed subsequently. Okay, so what in fact happened is that Bitcoin had a bull run. It retraced past the 61.8. So Bitcoin here benefited and had an echo bull, but failed to make an all-time high. Why? Because this was extremity of volatility, and you need a sustained period of volatility compression before you can get a new cycle of extreme volatility. And everyone's too impatient, and everyone wants just the new bull to the new high, and everyone's calling what they wish instead of what they should be seeing if they were technical. And throughout this period, we had a very limp and people still referred to this incorrectly as a bull market on the alts, and it's a rally as part of essentially a W bottoming. So I'm going to show you that a little bit more. Such is the extremity of this that we can't get any real framing on this area I want to talk about. So now I'm going to say goodbye to the extremities to the left. That was the mega bulls, and we will just capture from the 6,000 Bitcoin level. Okay, so I'm going to have to say goodbye to that. So just so that you know, you won't lose sight of the fact that that was an absolute extremity volatility event, and it's taking more than a few cycles to shake out. So I'll grab literally from July there, and I'll do the same here. So the idea is we have both these charts kind of identically under each other in terms of where they are now. In fact, this one is a little bit further ahead there, so we pull it a little bit so that they're underneath, still not underneath. Get him underneath, almost there, yep. And then I'll pull the July back in so that we get the framing and basis for comparison to be simple. So one is Bitcoin and the other is Bitcoin without. So you would have also noted, in fact, we can probably get a little bit more, but you'll note from this the lack of strength in this market on the lower chart. It couldn't retake the high, while in Bitcoin's sense, it broke this funnel area and then sat on it. That was the big cycle, and that then pressed on and went a whole bunch higher. This was the period of non-stop dominance. This was all period of Bitcoin dominance, actually from 2017 peak. It was Bitcoin dominance, but first you should have been bear, in other words, Tether, fiat, anything but any crypto, but Bitcoin less bad than alts. This is where so many people held on for their alts, being faithful, being loyal. It gave you money, must love it, hold on, it'll come back and fetch you. Smash, 97% losses, Ethereum 92, 96, 99, etc., all the way to the holes of this eventual bottom. So you should have been Tether here and actually shorting Bitcoin for the liquidity and other alts. Alts were great Bitcoins. The whole time we said short Ethereum against Bitcoin, short Ripple against Bitcoin. If you want to play in the crypto and even short Bitcoin at these key events, both there and there. Then what has happened now is we actually have some structure running through this. And I'm calling it the 125 billion mark, basically. It's a key mark for me, where you now have the W-type bottom, and you have an impulsive move here. And this is now at a higher beta than the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is squeezing higher. There's a rising wedge in there, guys. At some point, it will have some coming off. And as I continue to assert, it shall not take that high. So actually, for those of you that just want to moon leverage it, be careful, there will be a turning point coming. Plus, you're in a squeezing higher. But that doesn't mean it can't make 13. Doesn't mean it can't make 12, 12 and a half. It doesn't mean it can't make 11 and a half. In fact, we are just eagerly awaiting the confirmation that it's gone through 10,500. So we are investment long. We've been investment long since the inverted head and shoulders confirmed itself with a proper break and press on. And we've even taken short periods of trade long on micro and mini HVF structures through this upward run. And I am long a couple of alts because now I'm expecting the overperformance. So what we're actually saying from all of this is that literally from this point here, just before the beginning of 2020, from that bottoming, you started to get a little bit of a higher beta out of the alts. You started to get a little bit of a higher beta, and that is mainly only sort of asserted from this point here, from around about end January, beginning Feb. And you don't have to be the first to be in it. So as long as Bitcoin is squeezing up, you're going to get a higher beta from the others. Now, we took and made a choice. This came through our premium area and through the guys. What we liked, and just before I say goodbye to the total chart, I want to also show that when the Bitcoin, just before I say goodbye, I'm slight sidebar, excuse me for that. If I get 2018, you might have noticed that, let's get that a little bit more. Come on, Francis, get a little bit more. I want to make this logarithmic just to highlight this point a little bit better. You will also notice that it's very similar to gold in its high because it had this descending triangle, this level here that I've called the 125 billion level that I've tried to draw. I've not exactly nailed it. This, you had your descending triangle. It's very much like the gold. This is almost like gold at 1575 after running 1900 there. Then bear. Then you got your 2016 China rally. What you've had there is you've had your visit up here to the 125 billion mark, and now you're coming back up to it again. Now, what I expect could happen is two things when you get there. It's a key level of significance, the 125 billion, but recognize that it's made up of different alts that were than the ones that were king when it was breaking down through there, breaking up through there, and down through there. You now have the likes of Tezos at number 10. We've done some work and are currently long Chainlink, which is actually outside the number 10, but climbing quite quickly as well, and showed real strength. And I'll cover how you do a strength-based analysis on that. So this is the kind of thing we're doing in our looms, in our community. You should be getting through to the self-study so that you can learn the skill sets, become a better trader yourself so that you respond technically, not emotionally, and then you can even work your way into our community after a few good trades once you've properly understood the skill sets. Anyway, back to this, 125 billion a key level, and you are approaching it now. So that is the 125. I've not drawn the line perfectly in the right place. I should try to do it again, but I think you get my meaning here. So it is psychologically significant. There's a couple of things that may occur when you hit the 125. If you're lucky, and I'm not sure this is going to be the one, because at some point Bitcoin needs to rest, and I'm saying Bitcoin should rest a safe distance before that. It could equal it, to be fair, but it should probably be a safe distance before that. So we've been at sort of 10.5, get through the 10.5 as a critical level that we want to see it, because that invalidates the original inverted HVF. We wanted to stop somewhere in there. I'm not saying I want it to stop, but I think for the larger case of the volatility tightening, the lower highs and the subsequently higher lows, this is the path it's taking, and it continues to endorse that view with us. And that is what we're seeing. So if it's doing it, go with it. If it's a duck and it's quacking, reach for the duck hunting gun. So with that top out somewhere here, at some point, Bitcoin will probably then have a calming down leg that may bring it back into the 9s, depending where it goes. If it turns soon, it might, even make it into the 8s. We don't know. So there's something in a pool, and it shouldn't be too violent. So in other words, it shouldn't have the extent of the trend that we were literally the first to identify when it occurred here. And we were quick to also highlight that you're out of it with the sidewards low volatility. And that's where your historical volatility is very useful. Volatility has been going down. That is a bullish thing. Even in this upside move, the volatility is low. We haven't yet blown the lid in that, but you have a rising wedge. Could we blow the lid out the top first? That's when the volatility, that'll be the beginning of the end of the high. You need to start thinking of closing, because what might happen is once your Bitcoin tops out, it's permissioning. It is still your God market. It's not the dominant climber now, but it is still your God market. If Bitcoin had a nasty few days with hard selling, it will spoil the alts. Initially, they'll continue up. They'll say we're big and strong all by ourselves, etc., yada, yada, yada. And then they'll start to have the steam taken out of their sails, and then they'll have some really nasty days to the downside. So a couple of things might occur. Back to the answering, how does it play out at the 125 billion, assuming it gets there, is that, well, Bitcoin will have gone a little bit higher to do that, hopefully clearing that level, as I've said, the 10.5. It will squeeze a little bit higher, and then at the same time alts will be arriving at the 125 billion market cap. While the constituents have changed slightly, it doesn't matter technically. I suspect one of two things. A, it could go immediately volatile and upside, like a big push. In other words, key levels are often broken with momentum. They were broken with momentum to the downside there. They were kind of broken with momentum, but it was a very skippy, a volatile time there as well. I do not think we're going to go straight away parabolic, because we required our quiet period and our pullback from Bitcoin if Bitcoin is playing to script. What could happen though is Bitcoin could continue to go high and could go a lot higher to the 13K mark, and your alts could then break and do that. And then when Bitcoin eased, you could get a return move to the key level of significance before building up and going further. So that is one scenario, depending on when Bitcoin turns to pop. And as I say, Bitcoin's volatility is low. If you don't, if you're not comfortable with me making that assessment, we can click on that chart and we can insert an indicator such as the historical indicator of volatility. And you can see that, in fact, it is low vol. Even though it's climbing low vol. That is a good form of climbing, but you can continue to climb if you're climbing low vol. It's when it starts to get parabolic that it's the beginning of the end, and you actually should be very conscious of the exits and thinking of lightening up towards getting out. So there you go. There's your historical volatility drifting off. I've done a big analysis in my premium area on, you know, where those levels come. You can get into premium if you want more detail on that. But the volatility is low and you're climbing. That means it can carry on a little longer, but it is also wedging. So, you know, it's squeezing up. That little pop out the top could be the beginning of a bit of volatility. We've already had a little taste of that already. So the other thing that could happen for the alts when they approach what I'm calling a key level of significance, the 125 billion level market cap, because this is in essence a W bottom on the same key level of significance that was your descending triangle. And there won't be too many technical analysts that will be talking about this because too many people are looking at the wrong things nowadays. But this is what the market is showing you. That is a key pivoting level. So what we could have is we could also have a pop just through it, key level of significance, just run, and then a dip back. And then you might get some form of a handle like on a complex cup. So you're getting a W cup and you're getting a little bit of a handle before you then come back up. You wind up and then you break to the upside. So there might be a bit of pausing. So that might coincide with Bitcoin also easing a little bit. So I'm trying to keep the timelines a little bit married under each other. They've gone a little bit out of kilter there. Let me pull the March forward there to the March and get that history realigned again, the September there. So what you might get on Bitcoin is that easing, but no hectic topping. It'll feel volatile, but it won't have the same on this time frame viciousness that brought, and obviously the extremity that brought. So we're more likely to have some degree of volatility and then a rounding over and a rolling over, because it's not going to absolutely throw down this time. It's going to ease instead of have a trend channel or to have a massive capitulation, then a continuation pattern and a final capitulation, which was just a ball breaker for most crypto traders. So this is going to be a more chill topping, but that it'll still feel volatile, especially if you're over leveraged. So how you got to play it? What does this all mean? It means it's okay to be overweight alts and even be trading long alts, but remember that any sign of Bitcoin flagging or showing any volatility either to the upside or the downside, particularly the downside, but the upside is just one step before, may be bringing the beginning of the end. So what you want to do is, as Bitcoin starts to get volatile and stretching to the upside, let's say that occurs, is you actually want to start reducing into the strength your leveraged trades that are long alts. You want to start reducing if that starts to go strongly up. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that's what you want to do. Then you go back to just being investment on your Bitcoin and the few alts you have. And when this eases, I'm expecting that this time the alts won't shit the bed quite as bad as they did last time when you get an easing, because this was terrible. So you're going to start to maybe even get some relative strength on the downside as well. In other words, less people panicking out. So for the first time, we're getting positive beta. So the alts lagged in this bull. They underperformed in the bear. Now they've also lagged in this bear because they came very close to making all-time lows. Now we have the W bottom. They're showing overperformance for the first time in 2020 since 2017 on any significant level. There were minor periods, by the way, in here, but on the monthly, the big time frame charts, it's been a Bitcoin dominance game, and half of that was a bear market, where actually it's a fiat dominance game that you should have been in with shorting in here. So then you got, this has been the period of Bitcoin dominance to this point. So that's how you want to play. These are my thoughts for you. I'll show you Chainlink, why we selected it. This is technical reasons. So if guys say, no one pays me to shill a coin. In fact, I'm not on record as ever having so many guys on YouTube. He pushed that coin that's now down 99.9%, etc. I prefer to almost remain fundamentally ignorant. My curiosity always gets the better, and I go read and research. It's got to appeal technically. And if I can give you, for example, in this total 2 market cap, the major laggard for me is XRP. You have a look at it, and this thing, if you compare it, it's a major underperformer. I don't like the coin. Not emotionally don't like it. Technically, it continues to disappoint. You have a look at this coin, and you have a look how it's performed, and you can see that even whilst the bear lows that occurred here, this coin has traded lower than the last bear low. And its minor rally, it's continued lower. This is underperformance. So I don't want to be in that. And that's why I've always asserted, if you have to be short a crypto to be long another, and you want to be fiat agnostic, this is a great coin for you. It continues to show underperformance. But people saying, but it's going up now and it's going to play catch up. This is the bottoming mentality of the falling knife, is the great knife to catch. It never is. And the fact that it's over underperform doesn't mean it's going to super upside perform. What it actually means is it's a shit coin and it's underperformed. This is the penny stock syndrome. So many people have that over it. If I put in the lower area, so I'll take total 2 away, which is all your cryptos minus, which had 125 billion, and I put in Chainlink, and I'll do Tether on Binance for the similar time frame. It hasn't had as much history, but if you just look at the 2 from there, this was in fact, it's not even comparing it to anything meaningful to compare it to Ripple. Ripple is the worst. And my assessment is at some point, Ripple may in fact shed its number 3 spot in the crypto sphere, purely because it's keep losing. They're going to fight to defend it. And I think if it's Cash or SV or X coin, as I say, don't have a guy in this fight at all. When X coin is coming up on it, they'll try to retain that. They won't want to lose it, but they're going to have to spend money to do it, because there's clearly no long-standing appreciation for their coin. Now, this I think is pretty much aligned. So you look at the low of the crypto. It came late to the market chain, but not as late as Tezos, which has a real low level of history. If you look at it, that was the low. Then it really went strongly up, significantly faster than the total 2 market cap, which has the likes of Ripple and Ethereum in it. And then subsequently, you've come down. In fact, to get real sense out of this chart, I'm going to pull it right the way across here so that you can get a good look to it. And I'm going to do the same with the total 2, because the mega bull of 17 is just so distorting. Look at this relative outperformance. This is things that should be impressing you technically. And I know nothing about who's the guys behind it. You can get the story. You'll all educate me. I'm a technical guy. If the chart doesn't interest me first, then I don't even get started there. In other words, it's got to show the money's coming in and people want to hold it. I need to see the attitude of the people that are in there and the money. How's the money behaving? How's the chart behaving? This came largely 80% of the way back down in its subsequent sell-off after its attempted rally that gave us the first half of the W. During that period, you actually got a big continuation set up on chain. Low volatility here, finally at the low. This one was already going up from here. You were still bottoming down there. Just hasn't shown the same weakness on the down leg. Look, this is loaded with Ethereum and particularly Ripple as underperformance, but it shows me something. So the money is coming in. Okay, couple of thoughts there for you. Remember to book for the mini series below. Have a chat if you want to become part of our community. You can see how and why we made certain selections on those few alts that we do, and also why we assess the Bitcoin macro is continuing to come to us, and we're expecting that top now at anywhere from where we are now, stroke the 10.5s, to anywhere below the previous high. And I think it'll be some point below. I'm not sure we're going to see 13s, but I think maybe 11s, 12s are indeed possible, and that would be the sweet spot roundabout to come out. If we do go up into the 13s and really strong, it's just additionally bullish, but you don't want it to be too high for the larger macro setup, which will bring us a breakout later after a calming and easing back down period, which I think this time will be more interesting for the alts. They may hold a little bit more of their own. They may overperform during this period. And the final confirmation of all of this talk is, of course, in the Bitcoin dominance, which we inside our community had been reporting for the last month or so. It was showing technical signs of decay and problems, which was been further confirmed with the convexity and the topping out. So you look at your Bitcoin dominance, we've let go of the 73% up top here. We sold off, we had a falling wedge. We said that's going to lead to a pop. The pop we got. At that point, it's still bull. It fizzled the whole pop down, went really low, tried to get away, made a marginally higher high, started setting up flags, getting volatile, selling off. It set up a continuation downside, and it's continued to bleed to the downside. So while Bitcoin has in fact been going largely up, the alts have been going up faster. So you have been justified in saying there's probably a top to be called finally on Bitcoin dominance, and most people were way too early, way too many times, and I would say that is it. In fact, you could argue you even have left shoulder, kind of double complex head, and right little shoulder as well. So a dog's ear there. Let me draw that one more time. It's a little bit irregular. It's got a kind of double topish effect to it as well. So you have a left shoulder, big complex double head, and a weak right shoulder, and that indeed could indeed give you target somewhere down here. So while that's happening, that can point to further Bitcoin going up, but alts going further. And we'll see if that continues as a theme and meme all the way back down, because you can surpass double top stroke head and shoulder targets. Not officially a double top, this is a long way off, but you have an understanding of what I'm on about on the head and shoulders. Okay guys, thank you for the chat. Check you out, enjoy, subscribe and share if you like. Don't forget, by the way, those trading the markets, we put you into the Turkish lira on non-farm day. You should come and do a non-farm day. Grab our broker below at 100x, yet at a safe European destination. We were talking about gold and silver. There's lots of other things really interesting going on, and crypto is finally getting exciting again. I'm looking forward to you all making real hard-earned and trying to support you in that process, and later maybe seeing some of the best of you in our community. Bye for now, guys.